Hi, Starseeds. This is Oriah. I am the moderator and host of United Starseed Connections. I am so pleased to be here with you today. I am with Dennis Strahl on a series that we have designed and put together for you in the metaphysical realm. So Dennis is an Arcturian and Pleiadian human, of course.
Right.
And
a little bit of each.
He is a metaphysician. For decades he has been studying and he has been observing, and he has made it his mission to understand how technology works within the body and how to heal the body through technology, through frequencies. And he is just fascinated, and he has shared so much of this information with me over the years, and he is one of the best people to talk about this, and he's going to break it all down. We're going to find out about machines that are considered one of the top machines in the world, inspired by Nikola Tesla, that actually send frequencies to the body and heal the body at the cellular level. And he's going to go into the details of his story, of how he discovered all of this and the people behind it. It's going to be so jam-packed. We're going to have so much fun this hour. So welcome, Dennis.
Thank you so much. And welcome, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. And Oriah and I look forward to hopefully sharing some fascinating information. Some of it maybe you've heard about before. Some of it may be new to you. But hopefully what we share this evening will, or this morning, whenever you're watching this, will inspire you to do further research of your own and see if any of these, we'll just call them modalities or technologies, can be helpful for you in your own personal life, perhaps with some challenges that you may be having. So our mission is always to inspire and share in a loving and understanding way.
That's right.
So away we go.
Away we go. Okay, so as we understand metaphysical healings through advanced technology, we are changing the way healthcare will be available for the human race in the future. But in order to understand how we're going to do that, we need to understand at the molecular level what it actually means. So Dennis is going to explain to us exactly how frequencies can adjust and change and manipulate the cell back to homeostasis. So go ahead, Dennis, explain how that works.
All righty. Well, it just occurred to me that perhaps a good way to explain to people how powerful frequencies can be. Many years ago, probably about 20 to 25 years ago now, there used to be a commercial on television by Memorex, who at the time was making blank audio tapes, so if you wanted to record something with the old cassette tapes. And on their commercial, I forget what the name of the singer was, she was very, very famous, but she could hit a really, really high frequency or pitch and shatter a wine glass.
Right.
And so they would record then that, her singing that frequency and play back the recording, and the recording would shatter the glass.
Wow. Okay.
Which indicated, yes, that the recording was so perfectly reproducing that frequency that the recording was able to break the glass. So what it was that broke the glass, it wasn't the volume, it was the pitch.
I see.
Exact frequency. I don't know if it was like she was singing the key of C or whatever it was, but it was the pitch, or in other words, the frequency that shattered the glass. Okay? So, we'll go backwards long before Memorex ever existed, now to the 1920s. And you can look this gentleman up. There's some great documentaries on YouTube that you can find. His name is Royal Raymond Rife. The last name is spelled R-I-F as in Frank E. Rife. Royal Raymond Rife. And he was an inventor. He was not an MD and never claimed to be. But he was interested in healing. And he understood how frequencies affected things. So he built himself this spectacular microscope, which back in the 1920s, it was called the Universal Microscope. It had over 500 parts. It was the shape of a pyramid, and it was probably about close to 3 feet tall, and the base of it was probably 2.5 feet in diameter, so to say. And you can find pictures of that on the internet. What made that unique was, clear back in the 1920s, he had a microscope that was as powerful as today's electron microscopes. So nobody else on the planet had a microscope like he did. Well, how did he use that? Well, he was interested in disease and what remedies there may be other than cutting something out of you or drugging you with prescription drugs. And actually, when he was doing this was at the very beginning when the AMA and the FDA here in the United States were just forming. They were just putting their team together and deciding what they were going to do and what they were going to control and authorize and everything in the medical team. So that was the time when he was launching this. And with this microscope, I mean, this is even something that's apparently even today, if you use an electron microscope and you're looking at a cancer cell, for example, the moment you turn the microscope on, it kills the cancer. So you're looking at dead cancer. You're not looking at live cancer. He was able to look at live cancer and a number of other diseases in this universal microscope clear back in the 1920s. So what he would do is he would put live cancer, looking at it through his special microscope, okay? And then he had an industrial frequency generator. You know, a big box maybe back in those days that had tubes and everything in it. But if you've ever seen in a laboratory a frequency generator that's audible, you know, it'll start way low, and go way up high beyond what your range of hearing is.
Right.
So he would look at the cancer, for example, we'll just use cancer as an example, and find the frequency that would shatter the cancer cell, just dissolve it in a manner of speaking, just like the glass shattered from the singer's voice, but leave all of their surrounding cells perfectly healthy and unharmed. So that was his method.
That's incredible.
And I've done a lot of reading. There's great, as I mentioned, documentaries on YouTube that you can find. But his general method was he wouldn't declare that he had found the right frequency until he had put a fresh specimen under his microscope and had that exact same frequency shatter that cancer cell, disintegrate it, actually is a better word, for 100 times consecutive. Then he would say, okay, write that frequency down, that's the one for that diseased cell. And he went through a whole lot of different disease tissue from a variety of different causes, okay? Mm-hmm. But the headliner for him was cancer. And ultimately, over the years, I ended up into a good friend of mine over in Las Vegas that actually worked for Royal Raymond Rife. So Ron would tell me stories. Yeah, he says, I was kind of like their engineer mechanic because he was busy in the lab. And whenever that microscope would break, I was the one that repaired it. So I got a lot of interesting input from him. And he told me the stories how the AMA and the FBI decided to attack Royal Raymond Rife and, call him a fake and a phony and all that kind of stuff. But Ron has a photograph that he showed me of the front page, and if you have ever heard the term when newspapers were still in the newspaper racks, they call it above the fold. Was the story above the fold? Because when the paper's folded in half, it's above the fold, it's still in the rack, you're looking through the glass, you can see what it says, right? Right. So he had an above the fold article in the San Diego Union in April of 1929 saying, and back then the AMA had not, and the Big Pharma had not made it illegal to use the word cure. So on the cover of the San Diego Union, it said, Royal Raymond Rife has now cured over 100 people from cancer of all kinds. Well, of course, that didn't settle well with the Big Pharma people that were just trying to develop the pharmaceutical industry.
Right.
Hey, this technology makes all of our pharmaceutical prescription drugs obsolete overnight. And we still need doctors to set bones. But my gosh, this guy's got all these different frequencies he's figured out. So ultimately, to be able to help people, he developed a frequency broadcasting machine that he called the AZ-58. And how he came up with that name apparently was because it would, let's say, cause symptoms reversal. You can't use the cure word. Symptoms reversal on just about everything from A to Z. You have the right frequency. And he had programmed into this one machine 58 different frequencies that he had discovered from all of his painstaking research, looking at all different types of diseased tissue underneath his microscope, and came up with 58 different frequencies that this machine would broadcast all of those simultaneously. And it broadcast those frequencies in a wide enough pattern where apparently he could bring 100 people into a room. In other words, specifically have a room that would only hold 100 people. And turn that machine on, and everybody had to sit back and sip on their coffee or drink their ice water or whatever, just relaxing. You don't have to do anything. And their body would be affected by these frequencies penetrating their bodies, and people had all types of, we'll call it symptoms reversals.
Does this machine exist today?
There is one that exists. Exactly, yeah, you can't feel anything.
Yeah.
You can't feel anything.
Right.
You know, just like you could put your head into a microwave and you're not going to feel anything until stuff starts to heat up a little bit.
Right.
But, ooh, it's invisible frequencies. Well, yes. So, you know, if you say to yourself, well, I don't believe that invisible frequencies can, you know, affect the human body. Well, then how does a microwave oven work? Those are invisible frequencies, and it'll bake your potato or cook your steak or heat up your coffee or whatever you want it to do. And you can look through a little window, right? You look through a little window. You can't see anything. You can't see those. They happen to be called microwaves. But there are all types of frequencies, in fact, relating that to our brains.
Right.
For how long has everybody known about alpha, beta, theta, and delta? Our brain wave frequencies. So
now Rife was inspired by Tesla. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe that Rife had some inspiration from Tesla.
And by the way, Tesla is Venusian, for those of you who are curious. And he has admitted to that.
Exactly. And this is where we're kind of tying in the whole starseed situation.
Right.
Because if I just had to take a wild guess, because I don't have conscious recall, but I do believe that many of us that are here on this in this meeting this evening have been on starships.
Right.
When we're in our dream state, okay, they come and get us and take us out of our bodies, and we get to visit the ships. And I'm certain that they probably have all types of frequency healing technologies on their ships.
Absolutely.
Because there are some abductees that will talk about the fact that when they woke up the next morning, that their malady was gone.
That's right. There's many stories like that.
Exactly. So, gosh, there must have been some sort of frequency technology.
So is this machinery available to the public now, or is this still considered?
The Rife machinery is staying hidden.
Okay. Because
the feds used to raid, and my buddy that used to work for him and repair all of the stuff, he was living in San Diego at the time. That's where Rife's lab was. Okay. And he said, fortunately we had a friend down at the police department and in the FBI. We find out when they were coming to raid us. So we have duplicate everything, and we put all of the originals in an afterthought, so to say, because we were getting raided so much. So we jackhammered out the floor and built a big basement and had the real lab in the basement, which they never discovered.
Wow.
So they'd come and raid the house and take everything. And he says, Dennis, believe me, they took everything.
Wow.
Including, originally he had built 6 of the microscopes. 4 of them were confiscated by the MIBs, the men in black.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want anybody looking at live, diseased tissue and figuring out that a frequency could just waft it away.
It's just too much.
So, yeah, exactly. And they would keep.
Are you allowed to talk about this right now?
Well, yes, to a certain degree. Okay. To a certain degree, because a lot of what I won't go any further than information that people can find on the internet anyway. So the reason I wanted to bring up Rife is because 2 of the technologies that we can be right out in the open with and talk about openly one of those two technologies, namely the life vessel, and that's life vessel like in blood vessel. It's called the life vessel, which is a large box that you climb into.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say just a large box to make it sound crude. It's really, really high tech. But that particular inventor, who is a personal friend of mine, his name is Barry McNew. I met Barry originally back in 2005. And he told me, he says, I was inspired to build this life vessel which can transform and heal the body with light, frequency, sound, and vibration, all four. He has 4 different adjustments in that machine that are tweaked on a per session basis, on a per person basis. So it's custom adjusted for each person that goes in.
Mm-hmm.
So the operator has to be skilled, so to say. But he told me, he says, I was inspired by 2 people, Dennis. Of course, you can find quotes all over the place from Nikola Tesla saying that, when science begins to study frequency and the quantum realm opposed to physicality, they'll make leaps and bounds in scientific research. So he says, Dennis, I was inspired by Nikola Tesla, but I was also very inspired by Royal Raymond Rife. Why? Because he was effecting complete symptoms reversal on people exclusively with frequencies. He says, my technology uses light as well. He was using just exclusively frequencies and causing complete symptoms reversal back in the 1920s. And got, once again, on the front page of the San Diego Union newspaper in April of 1929. Royal Raymond Rife has just cured over 100 people with cancer. Back then you could use the cure word.
Right.
You can't do that anymore. That's why you'll notice that none of the herbal companies, whether it's Herbalife or, New Skin or all of the CBD oil companies now, they don't say, well, CBD oil will cure this or cure that. Even though it might, you cannot use that word. It is illegal to do so, and they will come after you and shut your business down.
Right.
So the people that have these unusual technologies, the life vessel and the other one that I'll tell you a little bit about, which is the Bluroom, you never hear them making any claims whatsoever. There are no claims on their websites. Now, there are some spectacular, amazing testimonials.
And what exactly does the life vessel do?
Okay, well, excellent question. And back in about 2006, I was visiting the life vessel. Actually, I took my dear friend Paul Burkett, who was my mining mentor. He was already in his 80s when he introduced me to Barry and the life vessel in 2005. Gosh, I lost my train of thought now.
So you took Paul, and actually Paul was the one who introduced you to Barry.
Introduced, yes. Oh, okay. I know where I was going.
You're going to explain how the life vessel works.
Yes. So we were sitting there one day because I was taking Paul once a month for about 5 or 6 years straight. We would go to Cottonwood, Arizona, because for the first few years, that was the only location, that was the only life vessel location. Now they're around the world. Okay. In a lot of different cities, in a lot of different countries. A lot has changed since 2005. The technology is making market penetration, I say. But he says, I had a visit, Dennis, by a bunch of the engineers from MIT, because they heard about my technology and the basically miraculous symptoms reversal that people, some of which they had spoken to. And so they wanted to come and pay me a visit, and they asked me point blank, how is it that your technology works, Barry? And he says, my response to them was, and my response to anybody would be, that any MD or doctor, if you ask them about the autonomic nervous system, they all know about it, but they rarely talk about it, because most of them are smart enough to understand that if your autonomic nervous system was in perfect balance, which most of the time there's so many things that we do that put it into imbalance, whether it be negative emotions or toxic food, too many of this particular type of an additive because somebody eats a lot of a particular type of junk food that has too much food coloring in it or whatever. All these different things that we do to toxify our system. And that puts the autonomic nervous system out of balance. So these MIT guys were so impressed, they said, you know what? This is really interesting that you mentioned the autonomic nervous system, because we've been studying that for quite some time at MIT. and what the profound effects can be in the human body. But you actually have a technology that creates change in the autonomic nervous system. We just spent $70 million developing software and the hardware that goes with it to track like 12 different attributes of the human autonomic nervous system. Whoa. And there are only 5 MDs in the whole United States that even have this technology right now. We sold them all their own version. We're so impressed by your technology here, Barry, that we're going to give you the software and give you the hardware. And by the way, the hardware, you know, retail to you, if we were going to sell it to you, is $70,000. We're just going to give it to you in exchange for, we want you, when somebody first comes to you, before they ever go into the life vessel, we want you to record all these different 12 categories of their autonomic nervous system, so we have a baseline to go by.
Can you explain what the autonomic, how do you pronounce it?
Autonomic nervous system.
Autonomic.
You know, I'm not enough of a medical expert. It's something you can look up on the internet.
And general idea.
Okay, a general idea. It has a lot to do with what they call homeostasis.
Right.
Which is something that CBD oil, for example, creates in the body. Homeostasis. Homeostasis just basically means a balanced harmony of all of the organs in your body. And when everything is working in balance and you're calm,
right,
well, then you're able to morph your cells at the quantum level. And of course, if you change something at the quantum level, the next level up is atoms. The next level up from atoms is molecules. Next thing up from molecules is, oh, the cells in our body. Well, isn't that interesting? If you morph the base material, it's going to go all the way up. The vibration, this new frequency, very often, which can be created one of two ways. With your own emotions, or if you have not reached that skill level yet, either the life vessel or the Bluroom will create that calmness in you.
Now, this life vessel is shaped like a cylinder, right? It's a power.
No, it's actually, and this is kind of maybe a crude term to use, but it's actually like a giant coffin almost.
A coffin?
Coffin, yes, but about twice as big.
Wow. It has like a little.
It's a big rectangle, and it has front doors that open up, almost like a refrigerator opens up. You climb in and lay down.
And so, do they have where can you find these machines?
Well, if you go to lifevessel.com and click on locations, you'll find locations all over the place. Because ultimately he was franchising it. So, for example,
clear that you don't, you're not being sponsored and no one's paying you to talk about.
Oh, no. Yeah, I'm not affiliated with that at all. Okay. I witnessed so many symptoms reversals over the 5 or 6 years that I was taking Paul there that it just blew my mind. And some of the people that I met, for example, another little story that the inventor Barry told me. He says, "I got an interesting," and I know that this is okay to talk about this, but he says, "I got a call from a major hospital here in Southern California." Well, he was in Arizona when he said this, but 2 major hospitals in Southern California. And one of the 2 hospitals, the medical director, called me up a couple days ago, Dennis, and I said, "Really?" I said, "How does he know about the life vessel? You know, isn't it kind of illegal? I mean, they'd lose their licenses if they sent you patients or anything." He says, "Oh, you're absolutely right." But he says, "Let me give you a little backstory. For the last 2 years, there have been 3 of the top doctors at University Medical Facility School number 1 and University Medical Facility number 2, and those 6 doctors combined have been sending me patients for 2 years now." And I said, "Well, Barry, how do they send you patients completely off the radar without having their licenses at risk, you know, exactly. Sending somebody to something outside of conventional medicine?" Right. He says, "Well, the only way it's legal for them to do it is once they've given them a death sentence. In other words, gee, I'm sorry, Mrs. Jones, but you have 4th stage cancer. We've done everything we can. Chemo's not working. This isn't working. You have about 90 days to live." So I said, "So you don't get these people till they have a death sentence?" He says, "Exactly."
My gosh.
He was very calm.
Wow.
In his response, I said, "Well," and of course I'm all excited and wild up. Well, golly, Barry, what happens? What's the outcome? Well, ultimately, complete symptoms reversal. Some people it works faster. Some people it takes a little longer, depends on what their symptoms are. But this medical director called me up and said, listen, Barry, I just want you to know, I know what you're doing over there. I know the 6 doctors that are sending you patients, and you know, because we've already given them their death sentence. Every time they come back, every 30 days, because they go for a 4-day session, they go for 4 treatments in 3 days is the protocol, every 19 to 25 days. So when they would go back to Southern California from Arizona after their 4 treatments in 3 days, they would put them through all the normal conventional medical testing. And he says, and we see the profound changes every time people come back from your life vessel. He says, if I could have one of those right now in my hospital here, he says, I'd die to have one of those, but they jerk my license so fast it would make my head spin. But Barry, I want you to know that we love what you're doing. You know, this is absolutely incredible. And I don't know if you've noticed, probably some of the patients that we've sent you tell them, well, gee, the last time I went back to my regular doctor, they took off, you know, I was on 18 different prescription drugs, maybe. And some people have that, maybe 12 or 16 or 18 prescription drugs. It took me off 5 last time, said I didn't need them anymore. So I would meet these people because I was taking Paul every 19 to 25 days for like 5 years. So we'd get into the same cycle as some of these other people who were coming back and visiting, and I'd see these profound transformations. And, gee, why did you come here originally again? And they tell me about some nasty freaking disease that they had. The conventional medicine says, oh, if you get that disease, you're screwed. There's no cures. You know, you're screwed.
Right.
And they're going, jeepers, I'm almost all the way better now. I feel freaking great. And I meet these people over and over again. So when you witness this over and over again, and I've experienced the life hustle a number of times. Sometimes they actually had 4 there in Cottonwood, and sometimes they'd have somebody do a no-show, and I had Paul there, and because I knew everybody there, and they'd say, hey, Dennis, somebody didn't show up. You want to hop in for an hour? Well, when you're healthy and you get into that thing, let me tell you, it's like getting a supercharger bolted onto your car engine. Oh, my. You know, man, oh, man, I would get out of that thing, and I was just freaking wired. You know, I mean, I felt, as close to as what you would call a natural high.
Right.
Because you're getting charged up with frequencies that are at a healthy level.
So you say they're all around the world now, so you can hopefully find...
Yes, yeah. You can go to lifevessel.com and click on locations. One of the best websites that I just visited recently is, I believe it's the Life Vessel of Fort Worth. And so it's Life Vessel FW, the Fort Worth, lifevesselfw.com. And if you go to lifevesselfw.com, right on the home page, you'll see a nice picture of the life vessel with the doors wide open. You'll see somebody climb in and lay down. And so you can see how it works. You can read testimonials. You'll notice, if you pay close attention, there are no claims made. There are 2 things, actually, that they did get FDA approval for with the life vessel. And that is for treating for stress reduction and pain reduction.
Okay.
Because I'd see people get there and, oh gosh, my leg, and it's been bothering me for 20 years. And in fact, one time I remember this elderly couple came in, and the guy could just hardly walk. I don't know what his problem was. He was using a cane. He wasn't in a wheelchair. And he went in for about an hour and 15-minute session. And I remember when he walked out, he didn't have his cane. His cane was stuck up underneath his arm. He was walking normal, and his wife burst into tears. Oh. It was so touching. His wife burst into tears. And he says, I don't know what happened in there, honey, but I feel like $1 million. Oh. This guy was like in his 80s or something, right? Yeah. And so I've seen it work that quick in one session. And I don't know if he stayed for the full 4 sessions over the 3 days, or if he just left after that, because I don't remember seeing him again. And then other people, they keep coming back, and they take 6 or 8 months or a couple of years. But amazing, amazing transformation. So when you see this frequency type of technology, frequency related, and where the light comes in, all lights have frequency. A lot of people don't think in those terms, but the analogy that I like to give for you folks out there that might not make that correlation is everybody knows about laser beams, right? And you can have an orange laser, you can have a blue laser, a green laser, a yellow laser. Why is one laser green and the other one is orange or blue? It's the frequency of the light that creates the color.
Well, I've had a session, I've had a treatment of AccuLight therapy with Marion, because Marion Atman, who I interviewed in another episode, he also is a facilitator, and I was tasting the color green.
There you go.
I was smelling the color purple, and each different color would elicit a different emotion from me that was correlating, and I would feel totally, completely different feelings and emotions and thoughts per color, and it would hit certain acupressure points with this high concentrated laser color that would come in at a very precise point and a precise frequency, and I was like a different person. I was like having visuals. I mean, I got up, I couldn't even walk. I didn't even know what happened to me, and all he was doing was this acupuncture with light.
There you go.
Yeah. So we'll put a link to all this, by the way. Everything.
Yes. So he wasn't acupuncturing you with needles. He was using light. That's amazing.
Yeah, and it was so precise. The precision of the laser was like little tiny beams. And when you first, you don't feel anything, but then all of a sudden you started to go, wait, something's changing inside of me. Like something's happening. Like you could feel it. He would put it like on the pressure point, so he would put it on like the wrists and like different points in the ankles, and some I think was behind my ears, and like a couple in the temples. There were so many different things. It was just phenomenal, fascinating light therapy.
And you felt it the very first time.
Oh, the second it hits your skin, I immediately, and then like certain my tastes were activated for certain colors. Like I tasted green. I'll never forget that. It was like it tasted like Play-Doh.
Wow! Oh my gosh! What a trip!
Also, I wanted to mention, so these frequencies, and you haven't even gotten to the Bluroom yet, but these frequencies and Nikola Tesla and all of these amazing technologies have come to our planet from the solar systems. They've come from other galaxies. These are our brothers and sisters and our advanced, soulmates over there on different planets that are aiding us. They're sending this information. They're sending this healing information. I mean, I think the Atlanteans are known for their healing abilities. They are, I think they're well known and documented from people who have...
and the Lemurians as well.
And Lemurians. And Bluroom. Yeah, they are just absolutely really, really focused on upgrading our technology and our healing abilities. And hopefully, eventually, surgeries and cutting with knives and surgical equipment will be a thing of the past, and sewing it up with needles, that's super barbaric. We're going to go way past that, and hopefully soon, right?
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I often like to think of the analogy, and I won't make claim to this analogy. I don't remember where it was that I heard it, but it made so much sense. And that is that when something's going on inside the body, people tend to think, well, I don't have the ability to heal that, or my body can't heal that, and I've got to go to the doctor. Yet, if you're slicing tomatoes and cut your finger, you expect that to heal up, right? Well,
that's true.
How does that happen? Why is the inside of your body any different than the surface of your body?
It's true. I think people panic. I know I panic if I start to feel something very off. The first thing you do is you just get nervous. You want to go take care of it really fast. But if you know that you have these types of machines and these types of technology at your service, you can go and take care of yourself in different ways.
Yes.
You don't necessarily have to just only rely upon Western medicine. Western medicine has healed me many times. I would never ever put it down. Any technology that has growth and evolution happening. But and so we're learning as we go. But these alternative medicines, I mean, it's just being proven day in and day out how they are literally changing the world with how people are healing.
Oh, yeah. The testimonials that are out there, for example, just on CBD oil alone.
Right.
Without any THC in it whatsoever, which for those of you who don't know, that's the so-called psychedelic or get you high part, it's the THC. And all of these different CBD oil companies now, where it's legal in many different states now. People are having, again, phenomenal reversal of symptoms from a variety of different things. And One of the things that CBD oil, which can be measured with conventional medical instruments, is homeostasis, balance in the body, right. Homeostasis. And that's what these frequency and light technologies do. I think one of the best researchers on this right now is really conducting some cutting-edge research, and he has all kinds of interesting videos on YouTube, is Dr. Joseph Dispenza. And what Dr. Joe Dispenza is doing, he's teaching healing with just your heart and your mind, okay? The external hardware that he brings along is he hires these PhDs from places like Princeton and Yale and Harvard and brings them to his 5-day events. It'll have usually 1,000 to 1,200 people there at a time, okay? And they have all these little sensors where they hook all these little sensors to your skin and down your arms and everything, and they're measuring everything under the sun. And we had spoken about this a few days ago, Oriah, and I thought it was very interesting. Speaking of telomeres. Telomeres are almost like little bananas sticking off the edges of your DNA. And telomeres, as they either shorten or lengthen, has to do with aging. So normally, if they watch over a period of years, a period of decades, as the telomeres get shorter and shorter, the person is aging faster and faster.
Right.
Well, one of the things they're doing now, that Joe does, is at his events, by teaching mind and heart coherence, which can be measured with conventional medical equipment, they can hook up to you now. Except that he says a lot of times the scientists that he hires that bring this equipment along, they're not looking for what he's looking for. So he directs them. He says, well, here's what we're going to look for. And even these scientists are dumbfounded from places like Stanford, Harvard, and Yale, and they're going, wow, we didn't know that you could track that kind of stuff with our equipment. This is amazing. So when people get into that sweet spot during meditation of connecting with whatever you want to call it, your own higher self, connecting with divinity, however you perceive divinity to be, and I always advise people, if you're going to connect with divinity, whoever it is that you believe in is okay, whether it's Jesus or Buddha or Krishna or just a nameless super consciousness. Try to imagine the most loving version of that God or goddess that you believe in and that you want to connect with that love. That's where your sweet spot is, and you can really feel it when it happens to you. And when you get into that sweet spot, Joe and his scientists will watch in real time on computer screens. They will watch people's telomeres lengthen in real time, which means that they are younging, they are getting younger in that very moment. Wow. They're in that sweet spot of emotion. Now, here's where this ties into the Bluroom and to the life vessel. The one thing that both of those technologies have in common that everybody reports, no matter why they're going, okay, well, I want to see if it'll work on this or work on that, whatever malady they may have. Everybody reports when they get out, gee, it was so relaxing. I fell asleep in the first, lost track of time, the first 2 or 3 minutes. And then when they kind of knocked on the door and said your time was up, it seemed like 10 minutes, but I'd been in there for an hour.
So tell us about
so these technologies. What's that?
Tell us about what the Bluroom is.
The Bluroom was invented and patented just in the last few years by a very famous psychic medium, just like Riz is,
right?
By the name of J.Z. Knight. And J.Z. Knight actually holds the worldwide patents for the Bluroom. She had been teaching for many years, or I should say Rampa has been teaching for many years, what he calls blue body healing. The reason that it's called blue body healing is because we have 7 layers in our aura, and one of those layers is the infrared blue frequency of light. It is that frequency that when you can amplify that within your own aura, you can affect self-healing. Some people have a challenge getting there. So, wow, is there anything that could give me like can I get a booster session somehow to get me into that state of mind and state of heart? Yes. The Bluroom does it, and the life vessel does it. Now, the Bluroom does it just with light, with blue light. It's an octagonal room, specially designed And if you go, and by the way, the Bluroom is spelled without the E, so it's BLUROOM.com.
Okay.
You can see what it looks like. It's a freestanding structure how they build them, so that you can be an independent operator if you want. You can buy a Bluroom and then put it in your own health spa, or just have a Bluroom location and do your own advertising, and people can come in for their relaxing sessions, so to say. But what I've noticed over the last couple of years, because I'm friends with Jay-Z Knight on Facebook, and she posts a lot of the testimonials from people that are using the Bluroom. And what am I seeing? Complete reversal of symptoms, almost identical to what I've been watching for years with the Life Vessel. So are those two technologies getting the same results? Yes.
Wow. So this is an emission of light frequencies, and similar to the Life Vessel, so it's coming in with the frequency and then it's coming in with light.
Correct. Well, actually in the Bluroom, I think it's the blue light that creates a unique frequency.
Right.
So in the Bluroom, the frequency is actually created by the light, because that particular shade of blue has a particular frequency. Just like if you had a light blue.
Learning about this color blue, because there's, you can disinfect items in those little boxes. Have you seen those little boxes that have blue light, and you can put your items?
Oh, yes. And in fact, I just saw something a couple of weeks ago for the first time. This company makes these little 4 or 5 foot tall robots that they're selling to hospitals. So rather than having somebody to go in there with antiseptic spray and rags and everything to clean out a surgery room, for example, they just put this robot in there. It's kind of like those robotic carpet sweepers.
Yes.
Where it bumps into something and then backs off, and it'll cover the whole room. Well, they've got these light disinfecting robots now that hospitals are buying, and it'll disinfect the whole surgery room with light alone. And you can find that on the internet. I'm not making this stuff up. It's amazing. So how light is infiltrating.
This is all from the future. This is all from
Yes.
technology. This is from our solar system. This is
Absolutely.
from our friends.
If you believe that some of us are gifted with visits to some of these ships, what if Tesla and Royal Raymond Rife both were taken aboard ships and shown some of these technologies?
That's right.
Woke up in the morning, may not have any memory of being on any ship, but gee, I don't know, it's something, I had a dream, and I'm gonna have to, get a frequency generator into my lab and see if I can affect physical substances with frequencies. Perhaps it happened something like that. I don't know, but
sure.
So much of this stuff, yes, has got to have been extraterrestrial inspired.
It has to.
Yes. And so we're talking about our own Pleiadian and Arcturian brothers and sisters that have been gifting us with things like this in stages.
And many other planetary systems as well, but yes.
Oh, absolutely.
So this Bluroom, now you can purchase this Bluroom on your own, right? I mean, by the way,
Yes.
not getting sponsored for anything he's talking about.
No. I don't get any commissions or anything. In fact, I'll tell you, back in January, I believe it was, just before this whole COVID thing hit and everything, there was one of the biggest annual health conventions in Vegas, in Las Vegas, Nevada. And they had the Bluroom there as one of the vendors on display. It's like, here's a healing technology. Because it was more of it wasn't for medical equipment per se, but it was more of the holistic type of a health convention for people that own health spas and people that are interested in herbs and essential oils and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
So they had it there. Well, the local, I think Channel 13 there, ABC, in Las Vegas, did a review of the Bluroom there at the show. And if you do a search on YouTube for Bluroom Las Vegas, it's about a 5 or 6 minute little blurb on it. And the very first lady that they interviewed, she says, I just went into this thing. I had no idea what to expect. I still don't understand how the thing works. But within about the first minute and a half to 2 minutes, I felt more relaxed than I have ever felt in my life.
Wow.
And the best night's sleep. And I was only in there for 10 minutes.
I definitely need to experience this.
And this was this woman's first experience for just 10 minutes at a freaking trade show. You know, I mean, phenomenal. It's a fun, I've gone back just to rewatch the video a few times because it's just so astounding seeing that woman's reaction.
Right.
You know, and there's another gentleman that's in that video. His name is Dr. Martinez. And Dr. Martinez is close friends with Jay-Z Knight, and he kind of co-authored that technology with her as far as once she had the patent written, he helped her to actually build it, to physically build it. You know, what kind of materials do we use? Where do we get the lights that emit exactly this color of blue that will create the frequency that we want? And he's in that video and does a little brief explaining. And you'll notice that he's very careful about not using any verbiage that implies any kind of curing or anything like that. None of these technologies will go there. So if you investigate or if you go to a life vessel location here in Southern California, I know there's one in Newport Beach, for example. There's a life vessel. There's still 2 in Arizona. Jeepers, I think around 2007, 2008, Barry told me, he says, you know, I've always wanted to get these into hospitals, but the AMA doesn't want to have anything to do with it. So he says, I just had a group of scientists and MDs come over from South Korea. This is back in about 2007. I said, oh, really? What did they want? They wanted 2 life vessels to put in hospitals there to use on patients with all different types of maladies to see how it works. So I said, so you now have 2 life vessels in 2 of the biggest hospitals in South Korea. He says, exactly. And they're feeding me back all of the data.
I hope that he's publishing this information so the world...
Yes, he has been. But you're limited to the journals. See, they won't publish something like this in the internet, in the Journal of American Medicine or something like that. Right. They don't want people knowing about this kind of stuff because it makes most of what they do, again, other than setting bones and stuff, obsolete.
Right, it really does. It takes care of the majority of
yeah, I met people in Cottonwood, Arizona that had complete symptoms reversal, we'll just stick with that term, for diabetes, multiple sclerosis. I don't know what her actual name or her actual malady, but I remember meeting a young woman that was about 40 years old. Her parents would bring her down once a month from Oregon. She was completely paralyzed, and they had rolled her in a
gurney. Wheelchair. I think it's called a gurney, right?
Yeah, she had to have a prop underneath her head so that her head wouldn't flop down, wow. And on the side so that her head wouldn't flop. All she could move was her eyes. Well, Paul was in the same sequence as she was, so I'd see her month after month. And one day, Barry and Paul and I were sitting in the conference room, and I could see into the waiting room, which was more like a living room with couches and a TV and magazines and all. And she was sitting there in her wheelchair, and I saw her putting her head way off to the side, and the thing that would hold her head up, her cheek was squished into it. She was trying to look at the people over on the couch and listen to the conversation.
Wow.
And I said, Barry, look at that. And then I noticed that the foot rests had been flipped up so that her legs were dangling, and she was swinging her legs back and forth like a little kid sitting on a swing.
Oh,
and I said,
my gosh.
Yeah, and I said, Barry, I said, she couldn't move her legs like that when she first came to the life vessel, could she? And he says, oh, no, absolutely not. In fact, she hasn't been able to move her legs for over 20 years. So here this girl was having symptoms reversal from full body paralysis, which all the doctors had given up years ago. And it was interesting because the parents said, well, we get certain, benefits from the state of Oregon, but we have to take her in to be checked up, every week in order to get the financial help and everything because of her condition. And so we have to hurry back. They don't know what we're doing down here. They don't know about the life vessel. They never heard about it. We're not about to tell them.
What would happen, do you think, if they did tell them?
Well, they would cut off the funding, which they felt that they still need.
I see.
There was some sort of state help that they were getting, and they didn't make enough money. They looked like they were both old enough to both be retired, so they were on fixed income. They weren't, Bill Gates or Elon Musk. So, the money had to come from somewhere, and they were able to get state help. God bless them. But wonderful, delightful, loving parents, and they would drive her all the way down in one of those vans that has the special ramp and everything. And, it was not only does it move your heart when you see something like that,
Absolutely.
transformation for someone that was trapped in a disabled body, and now the disablement is disappearing in front of everybody's eyes. And it just has a tremendous impact on you. I have not personally experienced the Bluroom yet. I would like to. The closest one that I know of actually is up where the Rampant School of Enlightenment is, right in Yelm, Washington. And there are a couple in Oregon, I believe. And not much else anywhere in the United States other than Washington, at least the last time I looked at the list, which it's been a few weeks. But there are a whole bunch of them around the world. There's I think there's 3 in Germany now. There's a couple in Italy. There's one in Belgium. So they're going in all around the world. Oh, there's some in Hawaii, because that's where Dr. Martinez lives. So he's got some Blurooms over there on a couple of different islands. Mm-hmm. So people in Hawaii now are able to benefit from the Bluroom.
So does this? Do you think this helps with healing from like a surgery? Let's say you had like a back surgery or something, and
yes, it super accelerates healing. And I'll tell you a personal experience that I have had with that.
With
the life vessel.
With the life vessel.
With the life vessel. Okay. One of my citrus trees in my backyard. It was supposed to be a navel orange, but it ended up being some oddball giant lemon things that have no juice in them whatsoever. But it's got big, long thorns on it. So, man, when I trim that thing, my arms usually have, punctures and scratches, and, I'm bleeding by the time I get done trimming it once a year. So I had just finished trimming it. My arms were all scarred up. And Paul called me up. He lived in L.A., not far from you folks, but he lived in Universal, right near Universal Studios in Studio City. And he'd drive out here to the desert, and he'd say, well, you drive, and I'd hop in his Cadillac, and I would drive him all the way to Cottonwood, Arizona. We'd stay there for 4 days, and I'd bring him back. So we went, and I had all these scratches on my arms. Kind of embarrassing. It looked like my cat got carried away with the plane, rough or something.
Right.
And this was one of those times when Pamela, one of the attendants there, who's also a close friend of mine, she says, hey, Dennis, somebody pulled the no-show. You want to go into the life vessel for an hour? I said, sure. So I went in, and I wasn't thinking about it or anything, that I was going to heal anything, because I felt fine and had a few scratches on my arm. And normally those scratches would take, and those punctures on my arms would take close to 3 weeks to where they completely disappeared.
Right.
I never got any scarring or anything, but where they were I was completely healed. So that night when we got back to the motel where we were staying, I decided to take a shower, and I'm in the shower and I'm washing my arms, and I'm looking at my arms and I'm going, oh my gosh, all of those cuts and punctures were completely healed and gone.
Wait.
Now, for some reason, when I was driving...
Completely healed and gone?
Yes, gone.
I thought you were going to say they were healed up really fast and it was almost...
No, there was no scratch marks.
Wow.
There was no scratch marks and no punctures. Now, what the odd thing, I really wasn't paying attention when I was driving back to the hotel. I wasn't thinking about looking at my arms. I was just driving along, and I didn't really notice it until I was washing my arms in the shower, and I'm going, hey, wait a minute. What happened? Had to be the life vessel. And Barry had always told me, he says, if you know somebody that has surgery, okay, and the surgery's already done, and they want to super accelerate the healing process, send them over here to the life vessel, Dennis.
I wonder if this would also work on tumors and lipoma and like fatty cysts.
Well, let me tell you what he always told me, okay? Because I asked him one day, I said, I got an next door neighbor that has Parkinson's. Does it work on Parkinson's? And he said, I'm going to humor your question, Dennis, but let me explain something to you about the life vessel. The life vessel was never designed for a specific malady. And your body, I've always remembered this, Oriah, and all you listening out there, he says your body does not know disease by name. Man comes up with those names. Heart disease, liver disease, kidney disease, whatever it is.
Right.
Multiple sclerosis. He says your body doesn't know maladies by name. All your body knows is out of balance. And guess what? When you balance the autonomic nervous system, which now this technology that we have from MIT proves that my technology balances the autonomic nervous system, because this actually measures all 12 attributes of the autonomic nervous system. And, isn't that interesting? Because 12 is a sacred number.
Right.
Anyway, so he says, always remember this. He says, my technology was never designed for any specific malady. It was designed to balance the body to the point where the immune system can do what it was designed to do all along, and that is to self-heal, just like your finger heals up when you cut it, slicing tomatoes.
So people with Parkinson's and MS, I wonder, so there's going to be healing of the cells, so the cells will regenerate, and that can hopefully maybe slowly start to reverse some of the symptoms or some of the inflammation or the pain.
Well, world-class scientist friend that I asked this question one time, and he has some advanced laser technologies that address some pretty serious maladies that everybody's heard of. And I said, let me ask you something, Doc. I said, is the blueprint for, let's say somebody has liver disease or kidney disease or whatever, I said, isn't the blueprint for the perfect liver and the perfect kidney always in your DNA?
Right.
He says, oh, absolutely.
Right.
So if I'm able to create homeostasis in my body, whether it's through meditation or through visiting a life vessel or a blue room or being in the presence of Rife's frequency technology, whatever it may be, then I'm literally morphing my cells at the quantum level.
Right.
Because again, it goes from quantum to atomic to molecular to cellular. So if you change the base material, it goes all the way up to the cellular level. So you're literally able to morph those cells into the healthy version of a liver cell.
So I wonder, when the frequencies come through, it's like a little tiny, tiny little waves. So
yes, they're waves, correct.
When it hits, it's hitting the cell in some sort of pattern. I'm sure it's hitting at like a kind of like a Morse code, I would think, like, or like you would call like the Fibonacci sequence.
Fibonacci, yes.
Like the Fibonacci sequence, where it's like a code, right?
Correct.
I feel like that is what reformats, or it stimulates the original cell to help duplicate healthy cells.
Morph back to the original blueprint, which is perfect.
Okay.
Which is all stored in your DNA at all times.
So people that are having symptoms from COVID-19 with the lungs, damage in the lungs, it will help start to build...
well, yeah, the body knows how to repair itself when it's in balance. The body knows how to repair itself.
People with skin cancer, people with, tumors, anything that's a malformation.
Yes. And so, they never have understood Parkinson's. So just to finish that story very quickly. So very, very casually looks over at his assistant, who he had appointed as his CEO, actually, Jane. He says, Jane, how many of those have we done? Parkinson's people. Like it was no big deal. It was just a casual question for him to ask. She goes, oh, I think we're 17 or 18 now. And of course, I'm all anxious. My next question is, well, what happened with those 17 or 18 people? Well, they're all back to normal lives with no more symptoms.
So imagine people just with general arthritis, people with bone density issues, people with blood clots and anything to do with the circulation, anything cellular. I mean, the whole body's made of cells, so apparently. So imagine regular treatments of this. I mean, this is incredible, and I'm so glad you're sharing this, Dennis. I mean, I wish I could blast this and have this be on the front page news. Imagine how many people's lives would be changed from the healing and removing this dis-ease from the human body.
Well, that's why I was so excited to see a Las Vegas ABC affiliate TV station do a review on the Blue Room at this big annual health convention. So anybody that was watching TV that night in Vegas saw and heard about the Blue Room.
Wow. And
anybody that goes and watches that video, the TV station uploaded it to YouTube. You can go find it on YouTube.
And so obviously children can use this, elderly can use this. There's no limit.
In fact, Jay-Z Knight is such a big fan of horses. She loves horses. That she's making a large animal version where people can bring if they've got a sick racehorse, for example.
Gosh.
Or, and then they've got a smaller one that they made for dogs and cats. And the dogs and cats are having phenomenal transformational healing experiences.
It's so incredible. This is what it's all about, Dennis. You know, this is the wave, and more of us need to be speaking about this. You don't sell this equipment. I'm not being sponsored. We simply want to share this information with the world so people can heal. And we want to teach them the best ways they can heal through technology, through the mind. And, you know, the mind is a technology. So we're programming our beliefs every day, and every decision we make is telling the body. I'll give you a very simple example. I started my United Starseed Connections Facebook group only about 2.5 weeks ago. And up until then, I was just, you know, figuring out what to do. My fashion business shut down, you know, from the lockdown. I couldn't go downtown anymore to my business. And you know, everything just came to a crawl. So I was sitting at home and just trying to figure out what to do. And I was just, you know, it's kind of like you're in that in-between space. And I wasn't feeling that great. I was eating a lot because I didn't know what to do. I was bored. And I was eating and I was gaining weight. And I knew better. And I was like, why am I doing this? But I just kept doing it. The second I opened the Facebook page, the group page, and the influx of support and love and feedback and communication that has happened in the big, it's kind of like been an explosion for me. I mean, personally, I know there's only like about 384 current members, but there's over 12,000 comments and likes, and I have that graphic, you know, like it just...
That's incredible.
12,000.
How exciting.
12,000 comments, yeah, and communication and posts and likes from just 2.5 weeks. And in that explosion, I received this data from all these starseeds from around the world, from Australia, Malaysia, Brazil, the UK, Canada, Netherlands, all of you that are listening right now from everywhere. And I literally received this, like, it was a wave of powerful communication and love, and it was electric and phenomenal. I've never experienced anything like it. I'm still feeling it. In these 2.5 weeks, my whole system changed. Homeostasis came back to me. I have been aging backwards every day. I'm dropping weight because I'm not eating like I was. I'm not feeling those feelings. I'm feeling energized. I'm feeling on top of my game every 24 hours. My sleep is better. Everything is changing. And I haven't done anything. The only thing I've done is receive this healing energy from my group. I've been receiving the powerful love healing frequencies. I've been feeling so empowered to express myself and bring people on like Dennis and Omarion, and I have future guests coming. It's been so exhilarating. And so I'm already healing just from the mere action of connection. So can you imagine if you have the power of intention and you are focused on your healing, what that can do for you? But sometimes you need a spark, and you never know where that spark is going to come from. And this story about the live stream and the Bluroom, but especially the live stream, I just cannot believe the kind of stories that he's saying, that you're saying, and I'm talking to the audience, I'm talking to you, but the stories are so moving, and so, if you let that in, I mean, I'm being healed just listening to this conversation.
Right. Well, here in the United States, there are many more life vessels than there are Blurooms. And so what I would like, sure as we're sitting here talking right now, we know that some of the people listening to this right now are very, very disappointed in conventional medicine because they tried everything and it still hurts. Whatever it is that's, you know, their malady may be, it still hurts. And they don't know where to turn. And maybe they've never heard of anything like this before. And if that's the case for you and you're listening to this, I strongly encourage you, do your own homework. And whichever technology that you live closest to, call them up. Ask them some questions. Look for testimonials. You can look online. You can look up Bluroom testimonials. You can look up life vessel testimonials. See what other people, I mean, I've found dozens of testimonials from the Life Vessel where somebody just has such a profound experience, they record their own little YouTube and upload it just because they want to help people. You know, hey, if you have what I used to have, and I say used to because I found this thing called the Life Vessel, and I was skeptical. I've seen people, I've met people at the Life Vessel, Oriah, that were so skeptical when they came in. And I soon learned that it's such powerful technology that it even works on a skeptic. So if you're watching this and listening to this and you're going, oh, I think it's all a bunch of hogwash, you know, if you can overcome that and just make one single trip to a Life Vessel or to a Bluroom, especially if you have severe symptoms of some sort, I honestly believe, now I can't make any guarantees, they don't make claims, I'm not making claims for them, but from what I've observed so far, would it be fair to say that you might be able to expect a spectacular turnaround in your condition? And I would say the answer is yes. Because it's so calming and relaxing. You learn what the feeling is in the Bluroom and the Life Vessel of that same sweet spot that some people can get to through meditation. So you can even utilize it while it's doing all the other work on your body. You can use it as a tool to learn what that feeling is, and then when you go to meditate, you make every attempt to duplicate the feeling that you had when it was the most sublime, most beautiful, most ecstasy-producing moment when you were in the Life Vessel or when you were in the Bluroom. And then you make an effort to create that same exact feeling when you're meditating. Now you're doing it on your own.
Wow. Without
the technology, but you're able to utilize the technology just to get you over that hump. Just to get you over that hump.
That's incredible.
And maybe just to get you to the point where you once again you can believe in your own immune system, and that you can shift your own frequency with your heart and your mind. Like Dr. Joe Dispenza, he teaches heart and mind coherence. There's a thing about when they're in rhythm. In fact, there's another a variety of different technologies that are being researched at a facility in Northern California called the Heart Math Institute. And they'll send people out. I met one young lady one time at the Contact in the Desert up in Joshua Tree one year. And she had this strange electronic amulet hanging on a chain around her neck, like a pendant of some sort. But I could tell it was, you know, is that electronic of some sort? She says, yes. I said, well, what is that? She says, well, have you ever heard of the Heart Math Institute? I said, yes. She says, well, I wear this 24/7, and there's about 2,500 of us that are wearing these right now. And it tracks your heart rate, basically tracks your emotions, and actually sends it back somehow home, you know, phone home, ET, sends it back home to the Heart Math Institute, and they're tracking all of this stuff and finding out how our own emotions, tracking how our emotions affect our cellular memory.
There's so many ways to heal. And
yes.
The bottom line is never to give up, and never to give up looking, and never to give up asking questions. And if you're too exhausted or weak yourself or mentally drained, enroll a family member to do this for you, or a friend to do this for you, because there's always a way, and to not give up.
Yes.
So, Dennis, I want to thank you. We've had a beautiful hour. I know that we can continue on.
Oh my goodness, an hour went by already?
Yes.
Really? Oh my gosh.
And
it flew.
It's been so fantastic, and I cannot wait for our next session. And I have currently no end in sight to how many sessions we can do, because we have so much to talk about, and it's so informative, and there's so many things that you're saying of value for humanity that is important. So I thank you so much for your time, your energy, your intelligence, your beauty of your heart, and your soul is so felt. And I'm so grateful. I've been your friend for 10 years, and I'm so thankful that we picked up right where we left off on the other side. I know we did.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Oriah. I really appreciate it. it's always a thrill and a lot of fun to be able to share this kind of information. And hopefully we have touched a few hearts and a few minds out there and maybe inspired some people to investigate this, some of these technologies, you know, to help them get through a tough, you know, obstacle that they may be trying to overcome. And even the stress of this whole COVID thing. A lot of people go to the Life Vessel and to the Bluroom just to relieve stress, and it works phenomenally well for that. In fact, I'm sure that during this whole thing that they probably been getting a lot more people coming to them just to relieve their stress.
I could imagine.
And it does.
Right.
And it takes you so deep, to such a deep level of meditation in a way. You're not thinking of that when you're in there. It's just so relaxing that when you come out, it's just like, wow, what was that? You know, where was I? That's incredible. So please do all of your own research, folks. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for having me. Oriah, this is so much fun. And I think our future discussions, a lot of this will, sometimes we might bring some of the same information back in because it all intertwines together.
It is intertwined. It interweaves.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And